Hey everybody, Mike, back where it all began. Well, back where I started the series explaining the construction of Stratacite, wearing a slightly more conventional head covering. The heat finally broke a little bit. Now we've got the Canada wildfires. No, I'm not going to turn around and show you the sky. It's smoggy, smoky. First up, the last video in this series with the little V6 die and the rune, I was just real quick, had an idea, let's see what else I can do with those scrap pieces of Stratacite. Just to give some ideas, put them out there, possibilities. Personally, if I had a block of Stratacite and I said I was going to make 24 rune stones out of this fake material, there would be rulers involved, there would be a lot more sanding, there would be very accurate cutting, and there would be ways to stop it from coming apart. My whole purpose there was to show you that as you sand, file, grind, those layers start to come out, and those layers can be used by themselves or in something like the die, which, by the way, if I had a slightly better what are they called now, 7 die set, D&D set, if I had a mold that was slightly better, because I do still have some good 2-part self-curing resin, I think I would love to try doing something where the pieces of Stratacite are closer in size and shape to the actual die, so the resin layer is thinner. So it's like, here's Stratacite, here's a protective coating. I think I would really like to try doing that. And I might, because just because I'm putting this out there for anyone who's interested to try hammering paper, to hammer paper, doesn't mean I'm going to stop. This is fun for me. I don't want to use the word cathartic because we'll just say it's fun swinging a hammer. And if you can create art from it, bonus. That said, to end this tablet, I should do a review on this tablet. I love this tablet, and it is not a Samsung or Apple or anything like that. I said that I was going to drop some pointers, some information that I learned in my time with the first and second billet making the pen. I have my talking points here, but I'm not going to just read off of a script. Let me give you this fresh and as it comes to mind. So first up, thin starting billet for more chaos. Okay, I learned early on in, well, near the end of the first billet, start of the second billet, that you have a stack of paper. If the stack is too thick and you're hammering, that force is not going through the layers much. You see all these reels and TikToks of people shooting guns through things, and how many frying pans can a 44 shoot through. Same basic concept. That force is hitting the paper and spreading and being absorbed. So what I figured out is, if you start off with a thinner layer, instead of this is the block I want, thin it down, spread it out. Your hammering will go through the thinner layers more, causing more of that rippling chaos, the strata effect. And then when you fold, you will have your smaller shape, thicker, with more of the wobbles, which you didn't see much in my cutaway view of the second piece, but I only did a cut down the middle. We don't know what happens if I cut the other way. Part of the fun surprise of the whole thing. So start thinner. And if you have the space, if you have a board big enough to clamp it, start bigger and thinner. Okay? Pre-shaped chaos. Something I really didn't cover. I mentioned I'm not going to go back and find the pictures and put the pictures at the start of that video. But the second billet, I had hammered it once. Then, right before I started this video, I was working on doing this for a Substack article, and I had split it apart because first hammering, you're not going to get a lot of adhesion. I split it apart, I took a few of the layers out, and I twisted them. And then I laid them back down, put the other half back on top, and hammered that flat. My thinking is, much like Damascus steel, you are pre-forming, pre-shaping what's going on inside. I purposefully put swirls inside the billet. And hopefully if I cut it the other way, or once I start sanding or grinding shapes, those will become more apparent. So I had to pause because of some background noise. Where was I? Oh, so this is going to be up to you and me going forward, experimentation. We have options. I was thinking about, like, I don't know if it's Aztec or Mayan, but the little squares, the interlocked squares, the border motifs, whatever you want to call them, we could do that. You could take a couple pieces of your paper and wrap them into little squares and put them between layers. You know, your bottom layers, put your little squares. Your next layer, do it again. Your next layer, hammer it, fold it. All of a sudden you have forced chaos inside, and it doesn't have to be squares. It could just be taking strips of paper and laying them across on an angle, laying another layer on the opposite angle. There's things we can do, which I don't know yet because I haven't started experimenting on this. Kind of did, but I didn't see the results yet. We can pre-shape the chaos into what we want. Maybe. It might be a surprise no matter what we do. Which, the last thing I have on my list is inclusions, which I will now bring up to the top of the list. I have written down, or typed out, leaves, flowers, wax, metal flake. Types of paper, minerals, natural resins, salts, glitter, mica powders, glow-in-the-dark paints, powders, whatever you have access to, layers of gloss or matte. You could put a thin sheen of Mod Podge between some layers to force a shine as you're working the billet. Wax, I had the idea for wax, melt a candle, put a thin layer of wax between two layers. While it's still soft, hammer, it should cause slippage between two layers. And, you know, the layers are doing this while also getting pushed down with the hammer. I don't know what it'll do. Will the wax then dry inside and stay there? It will, I don't know. But there are things you can add to it that will either leave an empty void, like a fossil, or add color, or add, who knows what it could add. Mica powders. You could add sparkle before ever even touching it with any shaping tools. So inclusions, all kinds of stuff you can add. Something I thought of just yesterday. Instead of the water, just using standard tap water, what if I used hot water or some kind of a solvent? Hot water, I believe, would break down the fibers better. I really don't want to get into solvents. I'd like to keep this kind of a natural process. I know mica powders, metal leaf, but water, I bet there would be a huge difference between regular cold or room temperature water and using hot water, and I would like to find that out. Vinegar I thought of, but I'm afraid that vinegar, if you use standard construction paper, might bleach some of the color out. I'm not sure. Little globs of bleach, not globs, you have your stack, peel it open, eyedropper maybe, drip, 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 a Q-tip, swipe, swipe of bleach inside on particular sheets of paper. Could do something magical. I don't know yet. Dyeing paper. This is something I wanted to do when I came up with the idea of using brown paper bags. Brown paper bags are pretty much universal as brown paper bags. But say you're a geek who has a big old coffee jar full of walnut ink that you made yourself. It's not actually ink because you don't have a binder in it. It's just walnut juice that you made by boiling down walnut husks. Put it in a pan, put some of these sheets of brown paper in it until that brown saturates them. Nice dark walnut brown. Then layer brown paper bag, walnut bag, brown paper bag, walnut bag. Just that. And then hammer and twist and fold, and you should have a wood pattern, like a straight up wood grain. Maybe, I don't know. Food coloring, I think when you dunk it and then hammer it, that would actually come out of the paper. I don't know. Food coloring with vinegar, it works for Easter eggs. Would it work for paper? I don't know. We have options. This is brand new. Maybe. It's not well documented. Let's fix that. Let's make some things. Making a drying box. Excellent idea. I plan on doing this. I started my first billet in April or May, and I mean, we had 60s and 70s. The humidity wasn't that bad, but I mean, in a week, my billet was dry, just completely dry. I'm not going to say all the way through because I didn't cut it at the time, but it was dry. Now with the second billet from these videos you saw, I can go a week and it's still not dry. So I should have something, an old toaster oven, I believe I mentioned, where I can clamp my billet somehow, shove it in there, and just put, what's the flash point of paper? I don't know. Keep the temperature lower than the flash point of paper, and just blow some hot air through it, past it, dry it faster, which would also help make the process, the entire process, go a little bit faster. I'm trying really hard to stare at the camera lens instead of me because I'm a noob. I'm trying. Okay, so that's making it. The hammering part of it. Some of the tips and ideas that I've had. Shaping it. Biggest thing to remember. I can't stress this enough. It is paper. It is not wood. It is not, it's the other stuff, micarta, the other stuff that the AI mentioned in that first video. It is not resined. And until near the end stage, there's no adhesives in it. It's just water and I can't think of the word. Cellulose, fibers. And you need to keep that in your mind as you're shaping it. Now, I had mentioned using a drill press. I had mentioned clamping 2 pieces and putting them in the drill press vise inside the clamps and then running a drill press down. What I didn't mention, whether you're using a rotary tool like a Dremel or a drilling by hand or using a drill press, high RPMs, really sharp tools and bits, the lightest pressure you can. That drill press, the 3 handles on the side, I was just like 1 finger, 2 fingers, just like resting my finger on it. That was the amount of pressure I was putting. Because if I tried putting any pressure, the drill bit would dig into the paper and start ripping pieces out. You don't want that. So if you want to use tools, use high pressure, high RPMs, light pressure, really sharp bits and tools. Next point, only cut with sharp tools. I have that carving knife that I believe I ordered from Sweden, a wood carving knife. This stuff is feeling like wood. I'm going to try it. So I was whittling with this knife and it was cutting so beautifully. And then it started ripping pieces out because the blade got dull really, really fast. I tried an X-Acto knife. Blade got dull really, really fast. I'm sure it has something to do with the crystalline structures of the cellulose fibers. I don't know. But it dulls the blades fast. So if you want to be one of these woodcarver types that has your stropping strap next to you or something to sharpen your blade every few cuts, you can do that. Saws, coping saw. I do. There's something with the shape of the saw teeth. Like you don't want the ones that cut going forward. You want the ones that cut on the backstroke. I don't remember. I know a lot of things failed. Only a couple of things worked. But fine teeth and lots of teeth per inch. Really small teeth and a lot of teeth. Your other option, besides high RPMs and light pressure, is slow and manual. Sanding, filing. You can go fast, but you've got the block of Stratacite, the object, in your hands. You can feel if it starts to fray, so you know exactly how fast you can go when you need to stop. No matter what you're doing when you're shaping it, lots of clamping. It wasn't just the drill press. There were some spots where I just things were getting shaky at best. The walls were getting too thin, and I would put it between the board and clamp it, and then sand the other end just to hold the shape to make sure it didn't collapse. If you're doing something hollow like the pen bodies, you have to do something to hold the shape. At one point, I had the drill bit inside, had it clamped, and then was working the other side of it and the outside of it. Like I would clamp it and then sand on the side that wasn't clamped just to keep it from collapsing. I know this is going to sound like cheating because of the whole water thing, but I also have a bottle of Elmer's school glue that I got down to like and then filled it up with water. So it's super thin. Seeps really good. Kind of a setback, but if your piece starts falling apart or you reach a point where your layers didn't stick together and they start shredding in the object that you're working on, I have this bottle of glue. I squirt some in the seams where it's starting to come apart. I don't know if delamination is the correct word, but the paper layers aren't sticking. And I'll pour this glue in there and I'll reclamp it and I'll let it sit until it dries. And that little tiny bit of glue will reseal it. It's a trick. It may be cheating, but it helps. So get yourself some thin glue, something that's going to seep. I don't recommend using super glue because you're working it, and super glue will turn it into a rock, which will make it more difficult to work. Lots of clamping. I already mentioned that. Seep and stiffen. Oh, seep and stiffen. So I had mentioned that I had made a homemade lacquer out of boiled linseed oil and frankincense resin that I cooked to dissolve into the frankincense oil. Look it up online. There are many ways. There are many lacquers you can buy. Some of them are clear. I personally recommend lacquer because it will seep in between the fibers, and as it dries and cures, it will hold them together and stiffen them. And near the end of the pen process, that's what I did. And just with the lacquer, I was able to polish and give it a shine close to what you saw in the final pen. But you want something that's thin enough and oily enough. What's the I forgot what it's called. Not capillary action. I mean, you have capillary action between the layers of paper, but you want something that has a certain flow rate and it's going to seep deep into the layers and then cure and, seep in, clamp it, brush it, Q-tip it, dip it, whatever you have to do, whatever your object is. let the stuff seep in, clamp it, or somehow hold the layers tight where you, well, the whole object should be getting this treatment. Find some way to hold it together. It should make the, like, boiled linseed oil will make the paper fibers swell. I didn't want my pen to swell. I wanted it to stay the same size until my lacquer hardened, polymerized. So I clamped it again, and it worked out beautifully, and it turned hard. I lost my talking points because my screen shut off. So you want to treat it somehow while you're working it, near the end stages of working it. Seal completely. Still talking points. I used a spray water-based polyurethane. And once I got the inside done, I just sprayed inside and let it dry completely. Then I glued the pen guts inside, the pen parts. Then I taped up the pen parts and sprayed the outside, 2 coats, just to make sure it was sealed completely. I don't want moisture getting into my layers of paper. I have a feeling, I haven't had this problem yet, so I don't know, but I have a feeling if your finished object gets wet, it's going to start to come apart again. You don't want that. If you're making jewelry that might get caught in the rain hanging around someone's neck, you don't want it to come apart if it gets wet. So seal it completely. Again, many options. If you're making jewelry, you can just coat it in resin if you want. Whatever works for you, but make sure you seal it completely. And resin or poly. Oh, so like I just said, you could use resin or you can use polyurethane, or there are other options. I'm not sure what they all are. I am not a woodworker. I am not a pen maker. I'm just a guy that likes to try different things. This time it was hammering paper. And I made a pen and it worked out, and I wanted to share the process because I would like to see, as I've said before, more of you create things with this process, because I think the end result looks awesome. That's it. That's all. That's the end of this series, this instructional series. Will I be making more videos of more Stratacite projects? I don't know. I might. Kind of had fun doing this. So we'll see what happens. But for now, you have 5-6 videos to get started, to kind of understand, to heed my warnings of how to work it yourself. That's it. I'm done. Stratacite. Do with it what you will. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for maybe learning. Hope to see your Stratacite projects in the future. Have a happy.